Hello, Fulbright Pakistan brings to you the Fulbright Women Podcast Season 1. I'm Sapna Usmani, a Fulbright alumna and your host for this series. And we have the perfect guest to kickstart our season. She has been in the startup space for over a decade now. Currently, she's the COO at the Orenda Project at Taleemabad. She has co-founded Taleemabad Schools with a mission to bring quality education across Pakistan using technology. Her mobile app, Taleemabad, has been downloaded over 1 million times and has received multiple international awards and accolades, including an award from the Queen of England and the Malala Fund, and special mentions in the New York Times and the Forbes Under 30. Proud Pakistani, a Fulbright alumna, the COO of the Orenda Project. Ladies and gentlemen, joining us today from Taleemabad, Sarah Farooq. Hi, Sarah.
Hi, how are you? Thank you so much for the kind introduction.
Thank you for doing all that you're doing, really, Sarah.
Thank you so much, and excited to be here. And while there's some, added pressure of it being the first episode, but I'm sure it's gonna be fun.
It's gonna go perfectly well. So, how about we dive right into it, Sarah? How about we come towards Taleemabad, the Orenda Project, what you're doing right now?
So Taleemabad really, what I love about it is that we are very modern in ways. We are using technology to sort of scale and sort of promote quality education across the country. And we are doing it in a way which is fun and engaging because we all got to study in a model which was pushed. You had to wake up, your mom will say, you have to go to school. And you're like, why do we have to go to school? But I think kids nowadays are engaging with technology and they are used to that. It's becoming a norm. Pakistan has one of the largest penetration of smartphone phones and internet. So it really is the future, and we want that education does not stay behind. So we are one of the few companies in Pakistan which have developed primary grade content. It's in the form of animation. It takes national curriculum of Pakistan, but we also wanted that our values are inculcated, in whatever we are making. So every episode has this local values plus something that is being taught through the video, and it's mostly in Urdu language. So anyone using it across Pakistan can relate to it. And so it has been downloaded 1 million times now, and we have got some. Especially during COVID time, we also got to partnership with the government. It's being aired on the TV. And so we really got to think, I think COVID was an interesting time for us because we have been speaking about using technology for education for the last 6 years or so, but the mindset of people was that, whether technology can actually do something for education, there was a lot of skepticism around it. But I think COVID pushed everyone and acted as a catalyst. And now even parents and teachers and schools are saying, okay, give us technology. We think that this has the potential, and we think that education can be made better through it. So we really wanted to leverage this opportunity to propagate for using technology. So what we are doing now is that we're working with schools and we are changing their entire ecosystem. Pakistan has one of the low-cost education sector. Private education is the mass market in Pakistan. And so we are targeting that market and we are saying, okay, come with us. We'll upgrade you through technology and we'll provide your teachers excellent lesson plans that they can just use in their classroom and teach children, and we'll help you with data and we'll help you to improve the learning outcomes. And you want to make it scalable, really. So we want to build a system which we can take to 1,000 schools in the next 5 years. And I think that's pretty exciting. It's very challenging, I would say, still, changing mindsets of people, it's never going to be easy. But it's at the same time now in the 6 or 7 months that we have opened these new schools, we are changing the difference. We are seeing the difference in teacher outcomes as well as the children's engagement in the classroom. And I think that's what excites us about the potential of doing this broadly, not just in Islamabad or Pindi, but all across Pakistan.
One would imagine there must be so many challenges to deal with, in terms of public mindset, in terms of, engagement levels, how to improve engagement levels. What are some of the, maybe top 3 challenges that you could talk about and how you tackled them?
Mm-hmm. So I think as the thing that I mentioned around mindsets is in a school system, there are many different stakeholders, right? Parents, teachers are your key stakeholders. And what we saw was that, our model or our method is very progressive for a lot of teachers. So we really saw teachers struggling initially, and even to the extent that they wanted to resign because they were like, this is too much, we don't know how to use Zoom, we don't know how to use this, system that you have created. And recently we interviewed one teacher and she was like, don't think this is going to be easy in the short term, but once you get the hang of it, trust me, it's going to make your life very easy. Right? So what we learned was that we cannot just give a system to a teacher, let's say, and say, okay, now let's roll with it. We have to really hold their hand and say, we are here, if you fail, we will come help you and we'll help you learn this skill, as long as you are open to learning and building your sort of career in this or building your skill set in this. But if you fail, that's okay, we are here. So I think mindset change involves a lot of training, but also a lot of hand holding. And so this was a big challenge, and similar for parents, because unfortunately in the target market that we are working in, rote memorization is something that even the parents really see value in. Conceptual learning isn't all that they understand all the time, but what they want to see is, what my child has written in the notebook and why is he not filling the notebook, or why doesn't he have a heavy bag on his shoulders? And so again, we had to have different conversation with parents around why our model is different and why this is going to build your child skilled in ways that will help him or her in their career and, in the 10, 15 years that they go to school. And so I think those conversations, we have seen that it is a process, and that has been a challenge in different ways. I think also just in terms of internally building products so fast. So we 6 months ago, we just had a mobile app, we were on TV, but in the last 6 or 7 months, we are building about 3,500 lesson plans. We are building an LMS. We have developed our storybooks, workbooks. So just managing that aspect and with the big team and letting them know that this is all working and your products are very helpful for the end customer. I think that is also a challenge in terms of how do you operate on such a fast pace without breaking things. We say that we are building the plane while we are flying it. So it's both things happening at the same time, and it does require a certain level of resilience. It does require a certain level of patience, and also just I think the third thing that I've learned through and this and also working at other young companies is that there is this element of faith that you have to have that it will work out. Like you can put in the effort, you can do whatever is in your hands, but things might not go as planned, or there might be things that will go wrong. But what you have to do is really see how you can learn from it and how you can incorporate it. So yeah, it is very exciting, but at the same time, this is something that we all get motivated when we see the actual outcomes happening on ground.
You mentioned parents and you mentioned teachers, right? Let's talk about the kids. How have the kids responded to, I'm pretty sure they must be having so much fun, all the colors and music, and
yes,
no heavy bags, nothing. Talk about that.
I think the kids actually, I will send you some of the material or videos maybe later on, but the kids actually really love it. That's kids are inherently curious, and they have silly questions, or they are not afraid of asking any questions. So recently we visited a classroom and the teacher was like, oh my God, with Taleemabad, the kids have gone, you have literally ruined the discipline of our class because kids are moving around all the time. They're asking questions. How do we deal with that? And we were like, that's a good thing, But again, I think this idea of asking questions, like the teacher being patient to answer their questions and not get stressed out by that, is something that we are working on. But because there is animated content in the classroom, because they are, last week they were learning about the moon with Prince biscuits, so like they had to eat the chocolate and then they had to say, okay, this is a full moon, this is a half moon, right? So like they love it, and they I think they are not used to that kind of learning also. So it's new for them also, and I think we have to maintain this balance of how do teachers manage it. But we have seen that then kids are very smart. They understand and they know and they learn, and you have to engage them like that. Even with our mobile app, we have seen very young kids, 4 years, 5 years, being engaged with the content and telling their parents about it, and then telling what they have learned, and then parents call us and say, oh, my kid just downloaded this app and now he's doing XYZ and he has learned XYZ, and tell us more about this. So I think they when the content is made in a way, and this content has been made with a lot of research. We literally had to discard a lot of content because we would leave kids in a classroom with the screen, and then through cameras we were observing what they would like, what they would not like. So there's a lot of thinking process that has gone behind it, and now we think that what we have built is actually something where kids can actually be engaged and they learn and they enjoy it, but they also don't feel overwhelmed that, oh, I'm doing studies. Early years are very, very important. I think unfortunately that's not in our culture. Mostly people think that grades and board exams and this is what matters the most, but the foundational years actually build the base of any child and what they are going to do in their lives. So I think focusing on that and tackling that in this way, we are hopeful that this will show long-term impact. And although it is a longer, we'll only know after 5 or 10 years what Taleemabad school kids have been able to do. But we are very, very hopeful that this batch that will come out will be visibly different than other children. And hopefully we can do it for millions of kids around Pakistan. But yeah, I think kids love it, and that seeing them and being with them just takes away all the levels of stress, because they're so curious and they will just ask you in the middle of a session some question and you're like, how do I answer that? So that's really good.
That's great. That's great. Fingers crossed about your services and collaboration reaching millions of people, because God knows, all of our kids all over Pakistan need that kind of learning experience, right? And there's so many variables, like you said, involved here. It's not just the kids, because kids are inherently built to be curious and learn, so they are like sponges, right? They can absorb whatever we are giving to them. It's also, like you said, the teachers, the training of the teachers, that is also a very challenging thing. And there's so many other variables, making sure it's, low cost quality education that's reaching the kids, right? And somehow, it takes me back to that conversation that we once had. And I want you to touch upon that. We have been products of, we've been privileged to get quality education. And you said you got a scholarship back in LAM, and then you got another scholarship at Fulbright, and now you're trying to, sort of give back to the society in ways of, creating low-cost education, which is quality education as well for the kids. I see a pattern here. Can you talk about that, Sarah?
Yeah, I think that's LUMS is intense, but it also helps you to develop those skills. It helps you to develop critical skills. It helps you to, ask questions, think in a different way, and completely different from what I have been trained for. And even though I had really good marks, but I was, just rote learning all the time. So I think that shift, that mindset shift that happened there, and also with Fulbright, seeing a US education, which is so, it again has a very huge impact, but it's not just pushing you to write papers and just, sort of like regurgitate what you have learned. It is actually making you think. And so I think that those two contrasting experiences of education made me really thought about how many children in our country and how many people in our country are missing out on it. And it's not their fault that, if they are not from a good background or if their parents don't have the means, it's not anyone's fault. And I know that, you can still make it, but you have to perhaps put 10x amount of effort to actually make it and be at par with the person who had the privilege or had the opportunity to be in high end schools. And I think that disparity is something that bothers me a lot. And I think one of the main reasons for coming back and doing this is to make sure that whatever I can do to sort of bridge that gap, I put in my effort. And I think that's probably the driving force. I see myself in a lot of other people. And for me, it's like, what can I do to help them unlock their energy? And actually seeing that Pakistan has this entire, youth pulse, which can be really positive, or if not leveraged in the best way, it can also become really chaotic and not good for our country. And I think and again, this is, even yesterday I was talking to someone, I was saying that, this is something that we are doing, but this is a systems level change. This is something that I think is not emphasized enough, that this entire time period that Pakistan is going through is really, really critical to define what the trajectory will look like for us in the next 20 or 30 years, when this boom will be ended and, we'll have all these people who couldn't get education. We still have the highest number of out of kids children. And so I think it scares me sometimes, and it makes me think that our effort is still very small as compared to what needs to be done. But I do hope that, through these efforts and through other efforts that people are doing, there can be some bigger, and there can be more efforts on the systems level to actually leverage the youth that we have, and, have them work towards the progress of our country, because that is extremely critical. So yeah, that's the story. It's like, I now say to people who are in their undergrads to really do explore, what you want to do through your internships and experiences. I think academic training is great, but at the same time, unless you really deep dive into something, you really don't know what you want.
When I was researching about you, accounting and finance, and then what did you go for Fulbright on? So please tell us all about that shift and why that shift happened.
Yeah, I think that shift, I still try to reconcile it in my head, and I'm glad that I did that. I think it was very intentional. But I was at LUMS actually, and this is another story, because I went to LUMS on a scholarship program as well. And so when I had to choose my major, it was again this time where at LUMS it's super competitive, and choosing a major was like a big part of your entire journey. So I was like, what should I do? And then accounting and finance was like one of the degrees that everyone wanted to go for if you had a certain GPA. And so I opted for that. And I did enjoy it. I mean, I think it was very helpful, but through my internships, I realized that I wanted to do something which more had a social impact. But I think because I had the business background also, I wanted to do it sustainably. And so that's where I was introduced to the idea of microfinance, and just learned more about, what sustainable businesses could look like. And then when I was applying for the Fulbright, I thought, okay, what's my background? And, given what I want to do, how do I merge them? And so my entire statement and my entire sort of like the research objectives was a combination of doing something which was sustainable, helping people out, by doing it in a way which could last for a long time. And so when I even went for the Fulbright, I learned a lot about social entrepreneurship. I got to experience and work and network with a lot of people who were working in it, because this is something that US was leading, like social entrepreneurship, acumen, the idea of doing something good, but also thinking about it in sustainable ways. And so I think that his journey, like that 1.5 years that I was at US, I really explored this idea. I even went for an internship in East Africa, did, sort of explored that part, and really loved it. I think I think that I made the right decision of pursuing it, because it never felt like, I was doing something which was imposed on me. It just felt very natural. And so that was the entire journey. I still say that I'm a pseudo accountant, or I have those mindsets and training, but at the same time, I think it's my heart is in doing work which has social impact, but my head also pushes me to think about it in a very different way. And I think that combination has really helped me to see things differently, and also working with young companies, really be particular about thinking about it, in ways which I wouldn't have if I didn't have the accounting and finance background.
I'm so impressed by you with this thing. Not a lot of kids are taught to curate their own academic experience, to design their own educational, experience. What is it that they want to learn, and then focus on that, even though if there was something that they were learning before, before that point was something completely different, and how to merge the two, find an intersection and then find yourself how you can be useful for the society. And I just love that thing about you. So talk a little bit about Fordham. You went to Fordham. What was the first, take us to that first day, the excited Sarah who was entering the campus. What was that like?
Yeah. So one of the, I've never been I've never been outside Pakistan before. And when I went on Fulbright, it was all of a sudden I was going to New York, which was like, you see it in movies and everything. And so I was very I think I was nervous. I was excited, like a lot of different feelings. And then Fordham has two campuses. One is in the main city, but then one is in the Bronx. And every time, I told someone, people were like, oh my God, you're going to the Bronx. And there was a little bit like, okay, what's going to happen? But I think that neighborhood is so diverse. And it was like, I really got used to living there. And even though, whatever the perception of people have been about that place, it was still very different and still very accommodating in ways. So Fordham has this beautiful campus. It was, it was constructed in the mid 1800s, and it has this entire Jesuit history. And it was a very, my program was small, but also intimate in ways that I really got to know who the people that I was with, and they were from many different countries, a mixture of, from Southeast Asia to South America to, Africa. So it was a really diverse program. And because we are a small group of people, we really got to experience each other's culture, really got to understand. And I think it also helped me build a community very quickly, because all of us were like, they're from different countries, and we were trying to find a new home. And so I think that part, like my transition to the US, was very smooth, because I instantly found this community of people that I could relate with, that thought like I would and were interested in the same issues. So the campus experience plus the people that I was with made it really easy for me to adjust, because I didn't know anyone there, honestly. And I remember when I even landed, it was like midnight or, like 2, 3 a.m. And I was just like, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? But the person that was hosting me was very helpful. So I didn't really feel that adjustment period, to be honest. And I think this experience and, having certain number of people around me, plus the overall environment that New York has to offer, was really helpful in me adjusting there. And then making that entire experience really, really memorable and meaningful for me.
No, that's great. You talked about culture, experiencing different cultures, because there are so many people from different countries, right? What is the importance of having that kind of cultural exchange in the development of, an individual?
Yeah, I think Fulbright also being a cultural exchange program, I really admire it about this program, because I think it forces you also, not just, my program was in a way where I had people from other countries, but also Americans. And, just I think Fulbright has this great side to it, because it helps you to not just focus on your academics, but also help you grow as a person and also be more open to different cultures. And I think that's really important because you get to see the other side. Pakistan, how no matter how great our country is, we still are a very homogeneous group, especially when it comes to having people from different cultures and different countries here. So in those ways, these were my first interactions with a lot of people from different countries, and that experience taught me a lot about how people thought about religion, about politics, about issues of social development, and just flourished me and just gave me a lot of different perspectives and different perspectives to think about and change my opinion on certain things. So I think that experience cannot be curated in any other way. Those physical interactions, those living with those people, celebrating their cultures is actually what makes you a different person.
On that note, Sarah, I want to ask you one more thing. What is it that you're most excited about right now?
I think, so I would definitely say, so I think before saying this is also a disclaimer of that I'm just putting it out there that I really love what I do right now. And so for me, my day in, day out right now revolves around building this model and just being very hopeful for what it can achieve. And I think just in terms of, that's one thing that I'm excited about. But also, I think recently I had, someone close to me passed away, right? So COVID has been a very difficult time, and I think when someone dies, it changes you in different ways. Some ways that you realize, and some ways that you don't. But I think one of the things that have come out of that is that just thinking about what I also want to, how I want to be as a person, because it just tells you how uncertain the life is. And I think for me right now, every interaction that I have and everything that I do, I just want that, people, if there's any way I can benefit anyone, or if there's any way, I can help someone reach their potential, I think that's something that I want to be remembered by, and that's something that I want to be excited by. And I think that doesn't have to be, oftentimes we think about that, if we are doing something, if we are changing something, it will be a very, it will require big steps. But for me, I think it's even smallest things that matters. It's even, just asking someone really how you are feeling, that changes the entire conversation if you are asking it with good intentions. And I think that's also, that's right now what I'm trying to be more open about, and also, sort of like be excited about. I don't know if that answers your question.
No, that does. You're doing a pretty good job at what you believe in. And I'm really sorry to hear about your loss. These have been, tough times for a lot of us. So many of us have lost loved ones, and it really, kind of compels us to look within and see what value are we really bringing to our lives and to the lives of people around us. And I really think, Sarah, you're doing a great job at that. I have to say, continue, doing that, please, because God knows we need that service. We need that, from you and from other women and from other Pakistanis, keep serving our communities and our societies and keep growing and learning along with it, right?
Thank you so much. I think, thank you so much. And I think people like you are helping, sort of help us articulate what we are doing and put it out there for the world to sort of show what's been going around. And thank you for doing that as well.
Of course, my pleasure, my pleasure. It was amazing talking to you, Sarah. And of course, I'll be in touch with you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. You too. Bye now. Bye.